It started?
Mm-mm.
Now it started. Can you see me?
Hold on, let me refresh mine. Yes, I see you.
Good. I just had to refresh it. I must have had it open too long. Great. Here we go. Hey, Alan. Yeah, I see people coming on now. Welcome.
Did you wash your hair today?
I did wash my hair today.
You did?
Yes. This is the most I've washed my hair in 1 week since this all started because I had that color basics on Tuesday and this today. I rewashed both days. Hey, Robert. Hey, Alicia. Hey, Jessica. Yeah, I had to wash it. It was not an option. Hi. Jessica, we got to get you on one of these.
Do what?
I said we have to get you on one of these. There. Hey guys, thanks for jumping on. We are going to wait till 1 o'clock to get started. So it looks like we've got another 2 minutes. Thank you guys for being here.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning.
Oh, is there this comment stop popping up on this end? Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, whatever time it is in your place. Well, there they go. Now the comments are coming in. Hey, guys.
Can you hear me okay? Because your phone's still cutting out a little bit.
It is? Yeah, I can hear you fine.
Okay.
Yep, I can hear you fine. We got about 1 more minute before we get started. Got some Lubbock, Texas, I see. Hey, Courtney. Oh, Nikki. Thanks, Nikki. You watched the other one right before this to prepare. I love it.
Nikki.
That's great. Can never be too prepared.
No.
Good evening, Debbie.
She's from the Netherlands. She's been with us every day.
I see that. I know. Well, I love this because you start to recognize the pictures, like the little like profile pictures of everybody. And yeah, it feels like you kind of already know everyone just from seeing the same faces every day. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for joining. Karen, Jill. What time we got? Is it 1 o'clock?
Yeah.
Oh, dang, that was fast.
I know, right?
It was fast. All right. Well, good afternoon and welcome to Keune Academy Live. My name is Amber Skrzypek and I am the Creative Technical Ambassador for Keune North America. And it is a pleasure to be back with you guys this week. Hopefully 1 week closer to all this being done and 1 more week of new growth. So cheers to another week past. Thank you guys so much for joining. Thank you for being here, for all your questions and your comments and your support. Keep those ideas coming in of what you guys want to see. It really helps us put together the schedule so that we can keep you motivated and inspired and most importantly, informed. So thank you guys so much for being here. Don't be shy on sharing the videos. Even if you're not a Keune user, we are definitely sharing content that other hairdressers can benefit from. So don't be afraid to share with your friends and your other colleagues. So hopefully they pick up something as well. So in an effort to make this the best learning experience possible for you guys, just like every other day we've done this, we have our Vice President of Education and Shows on speakerphone. So say hi to Jess.
Hi, everybody.
She's going to be helping with questions and keeping this run on track and really just makes this whole process run so much smoother. So thank you for helping us out with that. For those of you that this is your first time joining, welcome. I think we're on day, 14 of doing this or something like that. It's our third week. So
I don't know.
We started to lose count, but we are going to be talking today about the blonde breakdown part 2. If you missed part 1, we do have all of the live saved on the Keune Professionals page. So you can go back and rewatch part 1, and you can rewatch all the videos if you've missed them so far. So in blonde breakdown part 2, today we're going to talk about more blonding options as far as products with Keune, how we can lighten hair not only effectively, but what's the best healthy way to do it, and what are we going to use to set ourselves up for success for not only that appointment, but the next one. I'm always one to how do I set myself up for the next time that guest comes in so that I'm not working against myself as far as health of the hair. And then third thing is we're going to be talking about real case scenarios that you're going to experience when we get back into the salons. So with that being said, let's jump right in. And I've got our first client of the day, which feels really good to say. Emma is back with us again this week. And if you can tell, Emma's got some fresh quarantine hair happening right now. I spent this week prepping her and getting her ready for you guys today to talk about what we're going to be experiencing when we get back into the salon. And on this side of Emma's head, we have some grown out on the scalp bleach retouch happening. So you can see that all of her ends are light, but she definitely is needing a retouch desperately. So this is something that I think we're going to be experiencing a fairly good amount in the salon when we get back. And then on this side, we've got some grown out first time highlights. So how we handle that. Do we have to do things differently? Can we utilize her darker natural to our benefit? So some great conversations that, again, we're going to experience in the salon. So on this side, and if you're thinking to yourself, Amber, I don't have any bleach retouch that I do right now. Maybe you have no double process blondes. That's cool. You might not have them now, but you may have them when we get back. I've been thinking a lot about this, and it's really easy right now for our clients not to go somewhere else because there's nowhere else to go. But think about if you think about a flood wall, when the water is released, the water goes to any place where there's an outlet to hold water or for the water to pass through. When we get the go ahead to get back to our normal lives, clients are going to run to the salons. I've seen a bunch of memes about it, and it's so true. So it's keeping the clients loyal when things open back up again because they're going to be desperate to get into the salon. So a lot of you that work in bigger salons and are not in suites, you may find that you're sharing the clients that are coming in because they may not be able to get in with their normal stylist. So to be prepared for anything that sits in your chair, I think is going to be huge when we get back into the salon, so that not only can we support each other by doing each other's clients, but just to be able to make that we're doing everything quickly and effectively as possible, because again, time is going to be money when we get back into the salons. So we are going to break down this side first. Before jumping in, Jess, do we have anything so far?
No, not yet.
Awesome. Okay, great. So when we're talking about really color in general, it's so important to know where we're starting and where we want to go. So last week during the beginning, we talked a little bit about consultations and finding out about our guests' personal lives and things that may affect what we get to do in the salon. We're going to go a little bit beyond that and talk about what we need to do as colorists to set ourselves up for success and get the outcome that our guest wants. So it's important to know where we're starting and where we want to go. And of course, let me tilt you down a little bit. And of course, because Emma's had 6 weeks to find an inspiration picture, she brought in an inspiration picture. She's been all over Pinterest and Instagram, just looking for the right after, quarantine hair color. And she decided on that picture, of course. Beautiful image, that white, bright white blonde hair. That's what she's wanting her end result to be. Not so much with the shadow root that you see in the image there, but more so the mid-length and end color. So how do we get Emma even canvas from scalp to ends quickly and effectively as possible so that it fits into what they have scheduled in the salon. So we have to figure out what her natural is before we get started and what her existing level is so we can pick our product recommendation. So to find natural level, it's really important that we're utilizing our natural shades in our swatch book to be able to find that. And whether you've used Keune for a long time, you've never used Keune or new to Keune, this first column in our swatch book is all of our natural levels, and these pop out. So if you didn't know that, our natural level indicators are right in our swatch book. They pop out and make our lives easier to find where we're going, or like our color journey, so where we're starting to where we're going. So what I want to do first is figure out what Emma's natural is, so I know how many levels of lift I have to achieve to get her to that end result that she's wanting. So how we do that is we like to go below the crown in the back of the head. I'm going to clip away this front for now. Below the crown in the back is going to give us the most realistic version of like what her natural hair color is. On the top and around the front, it could be affected by the sun, so it could be lightened already. Sometimes density can play into it and show that the hair might look darker. So like, just like if I pull and give tension to the hair, it's going to start to show darker. If this area down here is denser, it's also going to look darker. So this is going to give us a great representation of like what her natural hair color is. Now, when we're finding it, we also want to take our swatch and notice, like if I have the swatch tighter or looser, one almost looks darker than the other. When we find the natural level, we want to fan out the swatches so that it lets a little bit of light pass through, again, to give us the best visual of what that natural is going to be. I'm going to take a thin slice just below the crown. I'm going to hold that with light tension, kind of mimicking what the swatch looks like. And I want that to completely disappear into the hair. As you can tell, that's super close because of the ring light. There's a little reflection on the bend of the hair here. But I want this swatch to disappear into that hair. Now, if it's hard to tell because, say, this was previously colored hair, so you have a warm or a cool factor into it, if that's the case, what you can do is hold the swatch to the hair, and either if you can or if you've got an apprentice or somebody else, take a picture of it with your phone in black and white. What that'll do is remove the warm or the cool from it, and you'll be able to tell depth then versus tonality. So again, if you're dealing with previously colored hair and you're not sure of the level, take a picture of it with your phone in black and white, and you'll be able to tell if the swatch matches the hair from a depth perspective versus like a light reflection because of a cool or a warm shade. So sure, her natural, we just determined, is a level 6. So starting at a level 6. So we're going to set this one to the side now. What I want to find out is where we're going. So we have to match up what her end color is. So I'm going to go back to my swatch book. To me, in most areas, she definitely looks like a 10. But because she's a mannequin, she's probably got a few bands and areas in there of imperfections that are probably like closer to a 9. But I'm going to do the same thing with my level 10 swatch, fan this out. And I want to hold it up to the lightest spot, and you can tell that that matches almost perfectly in there. Just to make sure, I'm going to grab my 9 and see if that matches. And you can tell that that's a little off. Again, she might have some banding in there where that might be closer to a 9 that we'll correct as we go through the service. But realistically, for the most part of her end, she is a level 10. So her natural is a 6. And we want to get to a really cool level 10, I have to figure out how many levels of lift I need to achieve, which is going to help me with my product recommendation. So we're going to start at a 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 5 levels of lift. Notice that I counted the 6. So you have to count the level you're starting at into the equation to get to where you're going. I won't tell you how many years into it that I realized I wasn't doing that. Apparently in my cosmetology school, they forgot that little key piece of information. I would just go, yeah, she's starting at a 6, so 7, 8, 9, 10, 4 levels. If you're wondering why your blondes are warm, ask yourself if you're incorporating in the starting level into the equation when figuring out the levels of lift. So think about it this way. If these are my levels, and in between my fingers is the underlying pigment, I have to get from a 6 to a 7. So I have to lift through underlying pigment to get to the next level, to the next level, to the next level. So I'm still exposing all that warmth in between. So if I'm picking the wrong product choice, I'm left in between with underlying pigment versus resting at the next level. So hopefully that helps. So we're getting her 5 levels of lift today, which means that I really have to use a lightener. Because she wants a cool end result, I'm automatically pushed into that lightener category. Our Super Ash Blonde series can give you 4 to 5 levels of lift, but because I know that she wants to be this cool, automatically I'm gonna go to one of our dust-free powder lighteners or our 3000 series. So today what we're gonna use is one of my favorites, Magic Blonde. So last week we talked about Freedom Blonde and Cream Blonde. This week I'm gonna highlight Magic Blonde because it is, again, one of my go-tos for on the scalp lightening. So not only is it great for the health of the hair because it has silk proteins in it, so it's gonna offer condition and shine, but it also has LP300 in it. And if you've used Keune for a while, you've probably heard of it. And if you've never used Keune, that's cool. I'm gonna let you know what it is. LP300 helps protect the hair during the lifting process. And we're lifting, so of course we want protection. So in that protection, it's also gonna help with porosity issues. So when we get to the toning phase, we're already setting ourselves up for success by picking a product that's going to help in both of those categories. Now, the beautiful thing that Keune does is LP300 is also in all of our developers and activators. So using developer with our lightener, you're getting LP300 in all of our formulas. No matter which one you use, this one you're just getting like a double dose of it. What it also has in it that makes it great is this word right here on the back of the bottle, and that's abysabol. It's a mouthful. The important thing to know about that ingredient is it's a desensitizing agent. It is a derivative of the chamomile flower, so it helps desensitize. So if I use Magic on her scalp, my client is going to be able to sit there more comfortably because of that ingredient in there than say some other like products or like other lighteners on the market. So picking the best product choice for the best service is something that is really important when it comes down to all of our Keune lighteners. They're all great, and they're all great in different capacities. So Magic Blonde for me is one of my go-tos for on-scalp lightening. It offers condition, it gives us care while we're lifting, care to our client and comfort to our client, but it also has a great consistency. So it's almost like the 3 C's, condition, comfort, and consistency. And consistency is key for our application. Because we're not gonna be using foils, I want a product that's going to be thick, it's gonna stick to the hair and stay moist so that it can process to get us to our end result. So, Magic Blonde. How are we doing so far, Jess?
Doing great.
Awesome. All right, so we're gonna be utilizing Magic Blonde on the new growth, and then we're gonna talk about what we can use through her length and ends to give us an even canvas to really go in there, and if there is any of those like bandings or if she had a toner previously on here, if it faded uneven, what we can do to even out that palette. But before we get into application, we have to figure out what developer we're gonna utilize for our formulas. And to do that, I want to draw y'all a little picture. It's Drawing with Amber Day.
Is it Scuba Steve?
No, it's not. Not Scuba Steve today. I may not be the best draw. You may figure that out in 1 minute, but this, my friends, if you're not sure what that is, this is a hair strand. You might not have recognized it because it's Emma's hair strand, not yours. So this is Emma's hair strand, and right now we know that Emma has natural hair and previously lightened hair. The blue area is her previously lightened hair, and we already determined that that's a level 10. What we're going to focus on right now is this top part. So that's going to be that new growth. And we said that that's a level 6. Now, when we have bleach retouch clients come into the salon, we really encourage them to come in every 3 to 4 weeks. And the reason that is there's what we're going to call today a sweet spot for on-scalp retouch applications before we start to create a band. So that's going to be that first 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch of grow out, or a 3 to 4 week time frame between applications. So that green dot that you see, that's going to be our sweet spot. Anything beyond that is where we're going to start to, like I said, run into like what we could create like a yellow band in the hair. And if you've ever on scalp lightened everyone and you saw it, you're like, oh yeah, I know what she's talking about. I'll just try and tone it out. It's not that easy to tone out because it's not going to be the same level. So what's happening when you get into this much new growth for an on-scalp application is the area above this is newer hair. It's going to be easier to lift. It's not been exposed to like free radicals and in the environment as long, and it's closer to the scalp, and the scalp gives off heat. So anytime heat's involved, it's going to lift faster. So this is going to be your new hair, easy to lift hair. Beyond that, you start to move into like a cooler zone. So the heat's not going to come into the equation. So it's going to be more resistant to lift. So to get that area to lift evenly, we have to adjust our developer to compensate for timing. So timing is developers are one way that we control time. Our product determines the lift. Our developer determines how fast we get that lift to happen. So in today's case, what we're going to do is use 2 different developers. So we will have 2 different formulas, one for the new hair and one for the other hair that's grown out farther, or we'll consider the old hair. So in the new area of growth, we're going to use Magic Blonde and 10 volume. And on the old hair, we're going to use Magic Blonde and 20 volume. And again, the reason that is because 20 volume is going to work a little bit faster. This new hair is going to lift at the same speed that this hair is going to because we're adjusting the developers. So we're going to get a nice even end result when we apply to the scalp and then the hair grown off of the scalp. So then we'll talk about where we're going to use to refresh and balance out the mid-length and ends. So Magic Blonde and 10 on scalp, Magic Blonde and 20 off scalp. All right, you guys with me so far?
They're all here.
They're all here, great. All right, so we talked about where we start, we talked about how we determine our product choice, and now our formulation. So let's talk about application of color, or application of lightener to get us a nice clean end result and set us again up for success at the end. So I'm gonna start and get my gloves on. And I've got 2 different bowls because we have two different formulas. I pointed out last week that these have a dry erase board on, so one of mine is marked 10 volume, the other marked is 20 volume. And I'm gonna go ahead and just mix them both up now. So a few things about your products and like your workability with your products. I tend, and this is just a personal personal choice that I make. I don't put any more than 25 grams of powder in each bowl when I'm working. So I like to keep the amount of product low in each bowl. So notice it's not keeping full of product. And the reason that is once I start to mix it, it's going to start to work, or oxidize as we call it. So as it's oxidizing, it's working in the bowl and not on the head. So if I have a lot of product in here and it's enough to cover the whole head, by the time I get to my last section, I'm gonna start to lose power in my product. So I suggest using lower quantities of product, but having more bowls on your cart or at your station, just not already mixed up. So as you need it, you can just grab a new bowl and know that it has the same working power as the previous bowl did.
So Amber,
yes,
is this a good technique to use for fixing platinum after the quarantine?
For fixing platinum after the quarantine? Absolutely. So that's a great question. Is this a good technique to use for after quarantine on platinum hair? Absolutely. So what we're going to be dealing with is lots of new growth and probably uneven mid-length and ends. And it could be just uneven because of porosity issues from them washing, or shampooing. It could be because a toner faded out unevenly, whatever the case may be. We're going to be dealing with something in that category. So this technique is completely interchangeable no matter how much new growth that they have, because it's really about breaking down the steps, figuring out my starting place, my formula, and then the application. So once we get into actually applying the product, you'll see that it's really for any length of hair. Yeah. Great. Does that answer the question?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So typically for on-scalp lightening or any kind of bleach applications, I like to start in the back. And the reason for that is just because that way, if this hair is ready, I can go and take them to the shampoo bowl and rinse them. For the sake of how much time we have today, you can tell that she has no lightening in the back done. So obviously we're going to start in the front today. But just know for in the salons, I would suggest starting in the back so that you can rinse it if it needs to be rinsed first. Second little studio tip is I like to start from the bottom and work my way to the top. And the reason for that is that way I don't have to worry about sectioning this hair, applying lightener, and then folding it onto an area that doesn't have product on it. This way I can start from the bottom and lay the hair down, disrupting any of my other quadrants if I haven't touched those yet. So I'm going to start, like I said, at the bottom by taking thin sections, and we're talking about sectioning for on-scalp application. 1/4 inch thin sections is what really is going to help maximize our lightness and help give us an even end result. So 1/4 inch sections, and we're going to slice the whole way till we get to the top. We're going to start with our Magic and 10 volume. And I'm going to switch brushes. So I think I mentioned this in my last one. I'm kind of a clean brush snob. So I mix with one and then I grab another one to apply. But for this, cleanliness, neatness, and application is super important just because of the accuracy of it. So a little bit of product on the top. I'm going to come in and apply it to the top of the hair. I'm going to have her tilt her head to the side. That just gives me a little bit more range of motion when I go to lift this hair up so that I'm not like smashing it into the hair above that. So again, this is going to help keep my sections nice and clean. So I'm going to paint top and bottom, and I am going to go right up to the scalp. And remember, this is the first application, so we're going to focus on that top right here, that top new growth. So the Magic Blonde and 10 volume. So it's that first 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch off the scalp.
And Amber, can you tell us how what your mixing ratio was, please?
Oh, great. What was the mixing ratio? Great question. So all Keune dust-free powder lighteners are a 1 to 1.5 mixing ratio. So 1 part powder, 1.5 parts developer. So easy to remember because they're all the same. Great question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Welcome. So I've got Magic Wand and 10 volume at the scalp, Magic Wand and 20 just off of the scalp, and I don't know. All right. So notice that the lightener comes and meets the line of demarcation for my blonde. I don't want to overlap, but I don't want to come too short of it either because we're not working in foils, you're not going to have much movement of your lightener like you would in a foil because you're introducing heat in a foil. Because this is going to open air process, you're not going to have much creeping or movement, whatever you like to call it, in your lighteners. So you want to marry that right to the line of demarcation from your blonde. I'm going to take a piece of cotton and put it underneath that section to protect her ear. So that's what that piece of cotton is for, is to protect her ear so that I don't have lightener resting on it for her full processing time. And then I'm going to take my next section, 1/4 inch section, and then do the exact same thing. So I'm going to do Magic Wand and 10 volume on scalp, and then Magic Wand and 20 off scalp. Now, unlike doing a color application where we really sweep color on, this is going to be more of like a dabbing it or placing it onto the hair so that I can get a little bit more of an accurate line, especially when I'm working with 2 different developers in this case. Do you have any other questions right now, Jess?
Not yet.
Wow, all right.
It's kind of like a dabbing, right?
Yeah, so yep, you're kind of dabbing it into the hair versus really moving it and pressing it into the hair. Again, all these little things help with the accuracy and the overall evenness of the end result. Okay, so now what we're gonna do is we've got our lightener on the scalp, lightener off on the old hair. Now we're gonna take another piece of cotton, but before we apply this piece of cotton, I wanna introduce you to, as a colorist, what is going to be your best friend, and that is our Vital Nutrition protein spray. So protein spray is great for a lot of different things. In this case, protein spray is something we're gonna utilize because it has a really low pH. So the benefit of it for this is we're gonna use it to protect the previously lightened hair from any lightener that may have either like accidentally applied, too low, maybe it moved as I adjusted my sectioning. So I'm gonna spray protein spray onto my cotton and then place the cotton at the area of line of demarcation from our product to our previously lightened hair. So again, that's going to protect that hair in case I accidentally overlay or if I accidentally blend too far down into it. That protein spray will help slow down the lift of it so that I can keep the condition of the hair strong. So we're spraying protein spray on the cotton.
So Amber, would you ever do this application on damp hair?
Great question. Would I ever do this application on damp hair? You could do the application on damp hair. The thing that I would be aware of is that sometimes when we're sectioning damp hair, your sectionings can be a little bit bigger just because the hair tends to stick together. I wouldn't have it sopping wet because your water would start to dilute down your product. But for anyone that's ever balayaged damp hair, I don't know if you've noticed, but it definitely lifts faster. So if you think about a sponge, a damp sponge versus a dry sponge, the damp sponge will actually absorb water quicker because moisture attracts moisture. So this will lift faster if you do it on damp hair. But again, like what could come into the end result or the end result equation is the thickness of your sections or the amount of water that's in the hair. Great question.
And also, here's another one for you. And would putting the 20 volume right up against the previously lightened hair be a risk for breakage?
Great question. Would putting the 20 volume right next to the previously lightened hair be a risk for breakage? I'll answer it like this. Anytime you risk overlapping with any developer, you could risk breakage. So it's super important that we're always going back and looking at the health of the hair before we start a service like this in general. So if I didn't think that that hair was strong enough, would I suggest maybe a different option than doing an on-scalp retouch? And the answer would be yes. There's been plenty of times that I've sent my guest home with protein spray or vital nutrition mask that we'll talk about to treat his or her hair before we do another lightening service, because it's more important for me to have for her to have or him to have beautiful, healthy blonde hair on the scalp and not beautiful hair that's on the floor. So great question.
So can I ask a question too? Because I experienced this as a colorist with the damp question.
Yeah.
I find that sometimes, depending on the level of moisture that would be in the hair, it could cause the product to slip into the previously lightened hair.
Yeah, for sure. No, that's a great point. Like because it helps with movability of stuff. So it does give it an extra slip where that slip could either be a benefit or that slip could work against you. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's a great thing. All right, so I'm going to keep applying. Again, 10 volume at the scalp, 20 volume off mid-length and ends. And then continuing to spray my cotton with protein spray. Now, if this was a client that I needed to lighten her ends more, so say that she had new growth, say that I needed to lighten her ends because this was all uneven, depending on which area needed the most attention, that's where I would start. So in this case, like I would still go in through and start at the base and get that applied. And then if I had to do isolation foils, I would then go back and treat like the mid-length and end. So then I could almost take it down, and I like to call it like color by number, where you are breaking down what each section needs and picking your best formula to do that.
Yeah, so what are your thoughts? I have somebody asking, they've never tried wet balayage. What are your thoughts on it?
What are my thoughts on wet balayage? I think that there is definitely a time and a place for it. I enjoy balayaging dry hair just as much as I enjoy balayaging damp hair. I think if I'm doing an on-scalp, like this is typically when I do it. If I'm doing an on-scalp tint to color application, say for like gray coverage, so covering gray here, mid-length and ends don't need refresh, but they want to see a little bit of brightness. After I rinse off the tint to color at her scalp and do the after color service, I will just work through cream blonde and like 30 volume through mid-length and ends for a quick brightening service. So I usually do it when I'm not looking for maximum lightening, but just when I'm looking to get like a shift of like whatever the darker tone is on there, or I'm getting a couple levels of lightening.
And could you use rayon cotton rolls, or do you prefer 100% cotton?
Great question. So I actually prefer 100% cotton. This is the rayon cotton, and the reason is cotton will absorb the lightener, so versus just breaking it down. And if I'm looking for something to protect it, I'd rather have the cotton absorb the product and the hair absorb the product. So I find that the cotton actually works better.
And the secondary question to that was, would perm papers work with the protein spray?
Oh, great question. Would perm papers work with the protein spray? Absolutely. Yeah, I can't see why not. It's absorbent of enough of a substance that I think that it would hold the protein spray perfectly. Yeah.
Awesome.
Great. Got some thinking outside the box today. I like it.
Uh-huh.
I like it.
No pun intended.
I know. Well, I mean, it's funny. Like, I know that we're going to be experiencing definitely having like new growth in situations like this, and we hope that this is the case. We hope that they come back with no color on their hair, and we hope that they come back with some form of new growth, and that they haven't tried to color it or lighten it themselves at home. y'all, I saw a advertisement for Sun the other day and I just cringed. First, it took me back to like 12-year-old Amber, and then I cringed after that because, you know, I wasn't a hairstylist then, so I didn't really know what was happening or didn't need to know like how to fix it. But advertisements are starting to now, and I don't know if you guys noticed this, but there's more advertisements for like at-home color than I think that I've noticed before. So, and if that's the case, and if that's what we're dealing with, then Courtney will be talking about next week how to create or how to correct all of that chaos, if that's what they're going to come back into the salon with. Okay, so kind of switching gears while I continue to paint this last section, because in an effort for you to not just watch me paint on scalp lightener, let's talk about the difference between doing on scalp lightener and not having foils versus what she's got going on the other side. So if she wanted a lighter, brighter end result here, would I have to change the developer like I do on this side? And the answer is, using foils, I technically don't have to. So there's two things that are going to adjust your speed, and one is going to be developer and the other is going to be like a heat source. So in that case, it would be foils on that side, just because Keune doesn't recommend heat with any of our products. So if I'm using a foil, will that even out the difference in that new growth area? And the answer is yes. So I don't have to go through the process of figuring out this formula for the top if I'm putting it into a foil. So may I be safe to put Magic Blonde and 10 volume in a foil on this side to get an even end result to match up our highlights? And the answer is absolutely. Now, she does have some natural through mid-length and ends. So, and if you've ever had a complete virgin head of hair sitting in your chair, you're like, oh man, this is going to be easy because it's all virgin, just to then pick a high lift shade and then get to the end of the processing time and go, oh man, that didn't do what I thought it was going to do. It wasn't as bright as what you thought it was going to turn out. And a lot of times it's because the farther you get away from the scalp, the harder it's going to be to lift. So there's times where you might have to up your developer down through the mid shaft to get a same end result that you do here, just because, again, the distance of travel, it has more things that have happened to that hair here than what it has closer to the scalp. So don't have to make the same adjustments always on this side that you would over here.
So Amber, do you charge your client extra to use the protein spray, or is it just part of your service?
That's a great question. Do I charge the client extra to use the protein spray or not? And I'll answer it the way that I believe, but I don't charge extra. And the reason I don't charge extra is because anytime that I charge for a service that I know that I need to use as a colorist, I get the opportunity to be told no. If I know that protein spray is going to set me up for success, not only in this visit, but in my next visit, I use it automatically. Now, if you want to add the price of it in to the overall price for all of your clients, I would suggest doing that where they don't have the option to say yes or no to additional protein spray. Does that make sense? Does that answer the question? Okay.
Yeah, and how are you making sure you're scheduling enough time for people once that we're able to go back to work?
Great question. So how do I know how to schedule enough time for clients? If they're an existing client, you can kind of go back and see how many weeks it's been since their last appointment, gauge that on how much extra time you may need for the application. If it's not a client that you're super familiar with, and like say you have a front desk team, I would have those open conversations with your front desk team and give them maybe a list of questions to start asking when guests start calling back in to schedule appointments. The more your front desk or whoever's scheduling your appointments, the more they are in the loop as like what times are needed to accomplish what services, the more they'll be able to set you up for success. I know for me, like not in quarantine like phase, but just normal conversations that you can have when booking your clients is ask them if this is for a maintenance visit or more of a seasonal change. So is this a maintenance visit or a seasonal change? So for me, booking maintenance visit means I'm just there to get either my gray touched up or like a color balance so I can refresh mid-length and ends. Where a seasonal change, I know that I'm going to either be taking someone from dark to light or light to dark, or making some kind of big change where I know I need more time in my scheduling. Hopefully that answered the question. Great. So as we're talking about timing, so I would completely finish this section and take it the whole way to the top and then start on the next quadrant. But because of timing today, obviously we're not going to have time to do all of that. But I want to talk about processing time. So processing time is super important for this. Magic Blonde, just like our other lighteners, can process for up to 50 minutes. So 50, up to 50 minutes. This should be well processed before that 50-minute processing time. If you're one, and I think I mentioned already, no heat with any of our products. If you're one that's like, I've got to put something on it, we've got to do something. If you feel inclined to put a processing cap on it or a shower cap, whatever you call it, over the head, you can absolutely do that. We just recommend that you punch holes in it. And, you know, like that came out of a great conversation that I had with one of our other Academy trainers, Courtney Von Berg, that you guys saw last week. We had a great conversation the other day about lightning. And she's like, yeah, just poke holes in it. She's one of our ABCH board certified colorists, and she works in a salon all the time. And the reason that we poke holes in it is because you don't want all of that heat and moisture to really sit in that cap. You want some place for it to escape to. So if you think about like even the lids on like pots, they have that release. So that little hole that, or two holes that you poke in the cap will allow enough heat to release so it won't affect your viscosity of your product, but still help the processing time and keep the moisture of the product there. So I will let this process until I reached the end result that I wanted. In this case, I want her to go to a level of 10. But we said we needed to balance length and end. So when this is at probably a 9, I'm going to work my product through mid-length and ends on the hair to balance out anything here. And because I'm only maybe adjusting a half a level or getting rid of tonality, I want something that's going to be really gentle and slow moving. So in this case, I would use cream blonde and mix it 1 to 1.5 with semi-activator. So cream blonde and semi-activator. The semi-activator is going to keep my lift very low. It's going to keep it gentle and let the product do what it needs to do without it going, for lack of a better word, without the lightener running away from me and I can't catch the quickness of it. So it'll keep it low and slow and just keep the health of the hair. So cream blonde and semi-activator. After that, I would use our After Color shampoo and balsam and then finish that up with a treatment before I tone it. So a huge thing for me is treating the hair in between my lightening and toning service. And something, you can use the protein spray again. This will help even out porosity of the hair, help fill in any potholes in the hair so that your toner takes evenly. And what I mean by that is if you've ever experienced grabbing, what we like to call like grabbing in our industry, really that's pockets of porosity where the toner is being absorbed in to the hair and then not releasing when we go to rinse it. So I want the hair to absorb good stuff and not like violet tonalities or ash tonalities. So you can use protein spray or one of my favorite products, and I think I mentioned it earlier, Vital Nutrition Mask. This thing is Salon's dream product, and they should not have this in their shower. So Vital Nutrition Mask is in the Care line in our Vital Nutrition range. This has moisture and protein in it, so they can have this and use at home, and you can do it in the salon in between a lightening and toning service. So this just sets the hair up for success, and your toner's taking more evenly. So this has a processing time of 3 to 5 minutes if you have time for that. If you don't have time for that, protein spray has no processing time, so you would apply your toner just directly on top of that.
So Amber,
yes.
If a client is currently a heavy highlight,
yes.
but now she wants to be an all over bleach and tone,
okay,
what would be the safest way to approach that?
Okay, so if your client is already a heavy highlight client and they want to go into bleach and tone, first of all, I'd have a very open conversation with them about the maintenance difference between a heavy highlight versus a bleach and tone. And I almost make my clients, they don't sign a contract, but I hold them to an every 3 to 4 week appointment. So if that's something they can commit to, great, proceed on to the rest of the conversation. I would start with a really low developer. In this case, I mean, I may still do magic and 10 volume on the scalp. You're gonna run into the same thing though, like in between those highlighted areas, you're going to have little pockets of natural. So what you'd probably wanna do for your application, instead of going in and starting at that new hair, I'd go in with Magic Blonde in 10, but apply it to that blending area first of the highlights and new growth and give that an opportunity to start lifting and then go back and apply to the new growth so that way you get an even end result and keep the health of the hair in mind.
Awesome.
Great, thanks.
When you were talking about mixing cream bleach with semi-activator, what is the mixing ratio and how many levels of lift would you achieve?
Great question. So if I'm mixing cream blonde with semi-activator, what's the mixing ratio and how many levels? So semi-activator is about a 5 volume when mixed. So keep in mind your developers or activators only control the speed of which the product works. So if it depends on how long I leave it on, would depend on how many levels of lift I get. In this case, what I'm trying to do is maybe get a half a level of lift and remove tone. So you could utilize the same technique in like your redheads if they've started to brown out, because I'm not looking for a lift of a lot of levels, I'm looking for a removal of tone. So, and my mixing ratio would be the exact same as all of my other dust-free powder lighteners, as 1 part powder to 1.5 parts of developer or activator in this case. Great. I'm gonna set her aside. So we talked about lightening, processing, treating, and then toning. I wanted to bring back Emma from last week to show you guys her end result. So I did finish her full technique last week that you saw in Blonde Breakdown Part 1. I did after color shampoo after she was done processing. Followed that up with a Vital Nutrition mask, and yes, I shared my mask with her. It's my personal Vital Nutrition mask, so I was really loving on Emma. But I treated her and then toned her afterwards. You can see that she's got some really pretty dimensional pieces, and if you remember, she was previously lightened. So those really cool tones is what we achieved with our technique last week. But I wanted to share her toner for a really pretty blonde, and it's the same toner that I would use to achieve that white blonde, so if I would pre-tone her. 3 parts semi-color clear to 1 part semi-color gray. So 3 parts semi-color clear to 1 part semi-color gray, and our semis mixed with 2 parts activator. What that does is gives us a really pretty white to silver blonde, depending on the starting level that we applied it to, or how much warmth was still left in the hair. But our gray, if you've never played around with it, you can tell it's really deep. Oh, there we go. Really deep gray. This is showing on a level 10, so you will be able to get a really strong gray tone. By diluting it with clear, I'm able to shear it out, but it still has enough tonality to neutralize and then deposit a cool tone at the end. So hopefully, if you've been searching for the perfect cool shade tone, that formula might work for you. But yeah, this is the end result from last time. So super easy to pick up and redo, recreate every time they come back into the salon.
Awesome. Amber, can you share with us why you would choose Bond Fusion, or when you would choose Bond Fusion over Vital Nutrition?
Great question. So when would I choose Bond Fusion over Vital Nutrition? Both amazing products. I'll probably take these gloves off now. My hands are hot. So both amazing products. If I'm trying to maintain the health of the hair and really work the hair back in great condition, Vital Nutrition is my go-to for maintaining slightly damaged to like moderately damaged hair. Bond Fusion for me, like I will only go to Bond Fusion if the hair absolutely needs it. And it's a great way to rebuild bonds, strengthen bonds, and get the hair back to a place where Vital Nutrition is going to maintain it and continue to improve it. So both of them can be utilized. If her ends were slightly drier, if it needed more TLC, that's the nicest way to put it. If Emma's hair needed a little bit more TLC before lightening it, I would do a Bond Fusion standalone treatment on it while her scalp process, and then do a lightening service of the cream blonde and semi-activator after that. Just because then I'm starting to repair and nourish the hair before having to lighten it after. So both of them are great. So there's times where you could use both of them together, not one or the other. Great question. Was there any other?
Oh yeah, I got the one for you.
Okay.
Why did you choose gray versus the silver?
Why did I choose gray versus the silver? So when we look at both of these, both of these are in our blonde glaze category. So this is semi-color silver, and this is, semi-color gray. So as you can tell, the gray definitely appears stronger in the swatches, and it definitely has more pigment in it than the semi-color silver. So silver really will only work at a level 10. It will neutralize at a level 9, but that's about it. Semi-color gray is strong enough that it'll actually offer neutralization up to a level 8. So I know that I have stronger pigments in this. So when I use it with clear to dilute it, I know that I still have extra pigments for neutralization and deposit here, where this would be sheared out completely with if I used clear with it. Did that answer the question?
Yeah. How long did you leave her toner on?
Great question. How long did I leave the toner on? 20 minutes. So all of semi-color is a 20-minute processing time. And if you're finding that you're not leaving your toners on for 20 minutes, ask yourself if you're setting up the hair for success before your toners. So most of the time what I find is stylists will take their toners off before 20 minutes because they see it starting to get dark. They see that grabbing starting to happen. So they fear if I leave it on any longer, it's going to get deeper, it's going to get darker. And the answer probably is yes. If there's porosity issues in the hair, that will absolutely happen. If you correct those porosity issues first, you don't have to worry about that toner sitting on for 20 minutes because it's going to turn out the exact way that it's supposed to without any grabbing or going any deeper during that processing time. It's a great question.
Yes.
Great. How are we feeling? Did you guys get something good out of today's program? I know it was a lot of information and a small amount of time, but I really sat back and kind of thought about the things that we might experience as we get back into the salons and things that might help us work more efficiently behind the chair, both from a product standpoint, health of the hair, and efficiency as far as getting our clients in and out with the end results that they are looking for. So, is there any other questions, Jess?
No.
No? Awesome. Well, go ahead.
No, that's it. No.
Okay, I thought you were going to say something else. I just want to thank you guys again for joining. Thank you for being here. I hope you all are staying happy and healthy and sane out there. Find something fun and creative to pass the time. I built a table the other day. I don't really know why. Courtney and I were talking the other day, and it's been really hard to find creativity, like when we're just in our environment that we're not always used to being creative in. So you push yourself out of the box, find something new, find something different to do. If you're looking for inspiration, there's so much great inspiration just out in the world. I know that I'm trying to get off my phone more because I've been glued to it because that's a way of feeling connected. But go out and sit in the yard, go out and go for a walk. Follow me on Instagram, like if you want. I mean, we could be buddies on there. Hopefully help that pass the time. I think I've got my Instagram handle on the top of here. But amberskrzypek.com. You get to see my table that I posted. I'm also going to post, I'm going to post a quick tutorial on Emma's curls that we created. So look for that later today. But thank you. Remember to put in the comments what you guys want to see. So as we continue to build programs, we've got that information so we can give you guys what you're looking for. So thank you so much for joining. Hopefully you enjoyed it, and we will see you soon. Bye, guys.